Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Hello and welcome to the Skeptic Zone podcast episode number 446 for the 7th of May 2017. Richard Saunders here with you from sunny Sydney, Australia. I don't know why sunny echoes, but it does today. It is sunny. Is there a cloud in the sky? I'm looking out the window. I don't think so. And it's not hot. Oh, and it's not muggy. Now, if only Sydney could be like this more often. But you don't want to hear about the weather? Or maybe you do, I don't know. I get a lot of crazy listeners. You want to hear what's coming up on this week's episode of the Skeptic Zone interviews. Interviews, yes, we have lots of... I have two interviews. We have... we're going to kick off with an interview with my old buddy Michael Marshall from the Merseyside, from the Liverpool Skeptics, and maybe more importantly, or equally as importantly, from the Good Thinking Society. He's going to be filling us in about the latest news over there, including Good Thinking's investigation into a despicable, horrible, dreadful, repugnant, where's my thesaurus? Disgraceful substance called black salve. This is a very caustic ointment you put... Well, you don't put it on anything. Don't use it. Avoid it. Throw it away. But people claim it can cure cancer, and it has very nasty effects indeed. It actually burns holes in people. It's horrible. You'll hear more about that soon with Michael Marshall and what they have been doing about it in the UK. A lesson for us all. After that, it's Brew Ha Ha from AustraliaScience.tv, Australia's Science Channel. It's an interesting website too, lots of videos on there. And this week, Casey Harrigan is going to be telling us about the UK's experiment in switching off fossil fuels for a day. And it's a start. Very interesting. That's Brew Ha Ha coming up later on. Then to round off this week's episode of the Skeptic Zone, I'm going to be chatting to Dr Paul Doherty, who has co-authored a book entitled And Then You're Dead, a scientific exploration of the world's most interesting ways to die. What a strange book. What a good book. I can't put it down. It's floating by me right now. It's really interesting. Happy to let you in on this book, tell you all about it, with an interview with one of the authors coming up to round off the show. And Dr. Paul Doherty, in fact, I noticed is also involved with the San Francisco Exploratorium. I'll put a link on the show notes if you're visiting San Francisco. Put that on the list of things to do. By all means, see Alcatraz, walk across the Golden Gate Bridge, eat the clam chowder and the sourdough bowl. All of the above are fantastic, but make sure you visit the San Francisco Exploratorium, not far from the Ferry Building, and I think it was a good move to move it closer to the downtown tourist area. What a fascinating place it is. And speaking of fascinating things to do, lots of conventions coming up in the later half of this year, I noticed. In fact, Michael Marshall soon will be telling us about QED in Manchester, and that's the 14th to the 15th of October. We have the Northeast Conference of Science and Skepticism in New York in June, late June, early July, and I'll be there. Can't wait for that. Looking forward to seeing everybody there, catching up with James Randi and my friends. The Committee for Skeptical Inquiry, CSI, have a convention coming up in Las Vegas, and I'll be running a promotion for that a bit later on. That's the 26th to the 29th of October. And the European Skeptic Congress is in Poland this year, and that's in September, late September, in the city or the town of Wrocław. And I think we'll be having some interviews about that Congress coming up soon. Look, I will link to all those conventions and whatnot in this week's show notes. There's lots of things happening around the world. I wonder if there's... excuse me. Hello?
Hey, Richard, it's Susan Gerbic.
Hi, Susan. Great to hear from you. Wow. What can I do for you?
Well, I'm going to be giving a talk in the Bay Area Skeptics group and May 11th in Berkeley, California. I was wondering if you might be able to mention that on the show.
A talk on the 11th of May for the Bay Area Skeptics in Berkeley. I think I can mention that on the show. What's it about?
Well, we're going to be talking about getting beyond the choir, talking about the GSOW project, Wikipedia work that we've done, got all kinds of exciting things that are coming up. Your listeners are a little above the norm. They're, really active, and I think they really would dig it.
Oh, of course. I'd be happy to, Susan. Well, where can people go to find out more details?
Well, you can go to the Bay Area Skeptics page, the website. You can also go to their Facebook page. You can come to the Susan Gerbic Facebook page. Oh, heck, there's lots of ways of getting a hold of us.
Well, look, I'd be happy to do that. I'll see if I can work in some sort of promotion on the show, Susan. Great to hear from you. I wish I could be there, actually, May the 11th in Berkeley. That would be really cool. Oh, well, look, I hope I can see you soon anyway.
Oh, I am really looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to seeing you the next time I see you.
Okay. Thanks, Susan.
Bye, Richard.
Well, there you go. Yet another skeptical talk for you to enjoy, and that one in Berkeley in California. Now, before we start the Skeptic Zone proper with the interviews and whatnot, here's a couple of little clips, a little segment from the recent Sydney Skeptics in the Pub where we had a chiropractor giving us a talk, and it was interesting. I guess I can say it was interesting. It was educational for pubbers to hear what this chiropractor had to say. There was lots of people scratching their heads, I must admit. But I took the opportunity to ask some pubgoers, and myself included, if they'd ever been to a chiropractor. It's Sydney Skeptics in the Pub. Tonight we have an interesting talk. It's going to be about chiropractic given by a chiropractor. We're not sure what to expect. It should be an interesting night. But the question we're posing to Skeptic in the Pub pubbers tonight is, have you been to a chiropractor and why? And I'll kick off and I'll interview myself. Hello, Richard. Yes, Richard. Yes, I have been when I was younger, due to I've been offered to be interviewed.
Hi, Richard.
Hi, Lara.
Hi, how are you?
I'm okay.
Okay, have you ever been to a chiropractor?
Well, funny you should ask. Yes, I have, yes.
And what was the reason?
Well, when I was in school, I was beaten up in the schoolyard and I had suffered whiplash. A whiplash injury. Mm-hmm. Being a teacher, you're probably familiar with schoolyard fights and things.
No, of course not.
Of course not.
School's very civil.
So a kid jumped on me from behind. I was flat on my front. He was on my back and he grabbed my hair and pulled my head back and punched me in the face. Whiplash injury. I can still feel it to this. Anyway, long story.
Yeah.
Then I started to get migraines, and eventually my dad took me to a chiropractor. Now this was in the late 70s, and for a long time I thought that every time I had a migraine I had to go back to the chiropractor, and that's what I did for a long time.
Was it actually helping?
I don't know. I was led to believe so at the time, but looking back, I can't honestly say. That was my impression at the time. Yeah, and it could have, from the point of view that he was manipulating my neck or massaging my neck, or I don't know. It's really hard for me to say.
And would you ever consider going to a chiropractor now?
Oh, no, not with what I know now, of course not. But however, they do give at the same time, they would probably loosen muscles during their examination or massage or something like that. And, of course, that would be of benefit. But I would just go to a massage place for that now, yeah. What, you?
No.
No, well, that's easy answer.
Never been, never would, except for research purposes, yeah.
Well, thanks for interviewing me on the Skeptic Zone.
Thank you very much, Richard. Yes. Thank you for your time.
Yes, we're here with Alethea Dean.
Oh.
Hi, Alethea.
Hi, Hi, Richard.
Yes. The big question tonight is, have you ever been to a chiropractor?
Yes, I did.
Why?
When I was a child, I had a weird sort of spasm in my shoulder, and my dad at the time was very into naturopathic modalities and sent me to his chiropractor, who I went to for a year or two, I think, trying to sort my back out. And
did it?
I don't know if I'd stopped having the weird spasm, but I don't know if that's what fixed it.
Part two of the question is, would you go again to a chiropractor, knowing what you know now?
I would go out of curiosity, and if I didn't have to pay a butt ton, but I wouldn't allow them to do the neck manipulations because I know how dangerous that would be. But out of curiosity, I might go again just to see what it's about and what it's like in an investigatory position.
I think that's a good answer.
Yeah.
So there you are, a little mini segment there from Skeptics in the Pub, and people, their opinions on chiropractors, or if they've ever had gone to chiropractors. And we have a lot of fun at Sydney Skeptics in the Pub. It's very relaxed. There's lots of nice food and wine and beer flowing, and generally people have a pretty good time. And thanks to Lara Benham for interviewing me. Stay tuned at the end of the episode for another announcement from me. But for now, before I run back up the stairs to interview Michael Marshall, I'm going to run down the stairs. It's time for me to run down the stairs. I think the cats are in the other room, probably doing some vacuuming cleaning at the moment or something like that. They're very helpful, those two cats. It's time for me to run downstairs, open up the freezer, get out those veggie burgers. Yeah, veggie burgers, and cook them up in the oven. And add a little bit of Tabasco sauce, some toast. Yeah, some toast, a little bit of cream cheese on the toast, the veggie burgers on top, and I think that'll do me. While I quickly do all that, I hope you enjoy the Skeptic Zone. Joining me now all the way from Liverpool, so this is coming a very long way, this internet bouncing around the planet. It's my old friend from the Good Thinking Society, Michael Marshall. Hello, Marsh.
Hiya, Richard. Lovely to be on the show again.
Yes, you know what? I think it's been a huge gap since you've been on the show, because you're on the show quite often, but I think there's been a little bit of a delay, and I'm glad we can make up for that today. There's a few things that I'd like you to talk about. In fact, you've had some interesting times over there, especially with this horrible substance called black salve, which we'll get to soon. But before we talk about that, I'd like to hear about this Charity Commission, and especially if this is news for people in the UK.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're in a very interesting time here in the UK at the moment, because we have the Charity Commission, which is the government regulator of charities. I'm sure you have an Australian equivalent.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we saw, one of the things we spotted with Good Thinking was there's an awful lot of charities who exist solely or specifically for the promotion of alternative medicine and other sort of disproven things. And so I imagine it's a very similar position in Australia. But we've got charities that do things like they specifically exist to give homeopathy to HIV patients in Botswana. And that's a charitable purpose, apparently.
Wow.
We've got another charity that exists to facilitate cancer patients getting alternative cures for cancer, getting access to alternative cures like black salve and like Gerson therapy and like these different types of things. And so there was a blogger and a retired chemist by the name of Les Rose who'd spent a number of years making complaints to the regulator to say these people shouldn't be charities. Here is a charity who's promoting a very dangerous substance like black salve to somebody who is very vulnerable with cancer. This is not a charitable purpose. This is not in the public benefit, because to be a charity, you have to demonstrate that what you're doing is in the public benefit. And he was arguing that these people should not be allowed to be, should at least be sanctioned by the Charities Commission and maybe even struck off the register. And after following those complaints up for a good couple of years, I think it was 3 years, something like that, Les found he was getting nowhere. So that's we as Good Thinking said, this seems to be a pretty serious issue. I think we thought, if you're promoting pseudoscience, you shouldn't get the rubber stamp of credibility from the government of being an official charity. People, when you see the word charity, people think, well, you must be doing something good. It must be for the public benefit.
Yeah.
You must be kind of a legit organization who's promoting legitimate treatments. So I think the fact that these things are a charity confers them a credibility that they ought to earn. And also, of course, you get significant tax breaks if you're a charity, which means the charity that's out there currently promoting anti-vaccination information, so it's called, I forget the exact name of the charity here, but that charity is not just promoting dangerous misinformation, but it's doing so with effectively a government subsidy, because they're not having to pay tax on anything, and they can get gifted, which is an extra sort of chunk on top of your donations that goes to them from tax money. So in order to try and redress this balance, we were arguing that the Charity Commission needs to have a firm policy on pseudoscience and on complementary alternative medicine. And after a bit of a legal back and forth last year, the Charity Commission announced they were going to have a big consultation and review as to how they handle charities that promote CAM therapies. And that review is now currently open, and they're looking for people to submit their ideas, their opinions, and to try and steer the consultation and steer the commission as to how they deal with these charities in future. And we're really asking sort of skeptics in the UK and possibly from anywhere else who might want to lend their opinions to that, to get in touch with the Charity Commission, because we think this is a great opportunity for skeptical activism for anybody who's got an opinion, anyone who's got a level of expertise. So let's say if you're in healthcare, you're a doctor, if you're in the legal profession and you sort of specialize in charity law, or if you're just somebody who is an everyday skeptic who thinks, actually, I don't think tax breaks and credibility should be going to organizations that promote things that haven't been proven to be true. And so we're here to kind of say to people, join in the commission and send in a submission to this review, and hopefully we can try and help steer this policy towards a sensible outcome.
I think that's a very good idea, because you're right when you hear that an organisation is a charity. You picture little bunny rabbits and good-hearted people and Florence Nightingale sort of visions, don't you? The word charity. And if they're flogging or peddling nonsense to people, then this is something which should be absolutely addressed. What then can people do? Where can they go to find out more and get something done?
Well, so on the Good Thinking Society website at goodthinkingsociety.org, we've got an explanation of the Charity Commission, the review generally. And the review's looking for answers to some fairly specific questions. They're asking about things like what nature of evidence, what level of evidence should be allowed to establish whether CAM therapies are beneficial. And they're asking, should they accept a lower standard of evidence if the therapies are there to help people relieve symptoms rather than cure disease? And asking sort of questions in those kinds of areas. So if you go to our website, goodthinkingsociety.org, we've got a guide to those questions, and it explains how to get in touch with the Charity Commission and send your thoughts. And it also kind of goes through a few of the points that we've made in our consultation submission. And we'll also be publishing our submission shortly too. I think next week we'll publish what we actually sent to the Charities Commission. So that'll be all up on our website at goodthinkingsociety.org.
Yes, goodthinkingsociety.org is the website. And I know about the story I want to talk about next, Marsh, because I subscribe to the Good Thinking newsletter, which comes into my inbox regularly, so I can keep up to date, keep tabs on what's happening at the Good Thinking Society. And this is a story to do with a horrible substance that we've come across occasionally here in Australia called black salve. For those people who don't know what it is, how would you describe that?
Black salve, yeah, it's a herbal ointment that the promoters of which they'll say, well, this will cure your cancer, this will draw the cancer out. They talk about it being a drawing salve, and it draws the cancer out, it draws toxins out to the surface, and then they believe that those cancerous tumours just come out of your skin in a big chunk. What's actually happening is that the salve, the ointment, is highly caustic and actually burns your skin into this kind of big, nasty scab. And what comes off in a chunk is your flesh, essentially. So it leaves people with horrible gaping holes in their flesh, which are then very exposed. So not only is it hugely dangerous in the sense that it will burn holes in your flesh and leave you with some pretty severe scarring, and the pictures that abound on the internet of people having used black salve are pretty gruesome. But it'll also give you the false impression that you've cured your cancer. And there's been plenty of examples, unfortunately, of people who've used this in order to draw their cancer out. They've got this big chunk of their skin come away. They've assumed that that's their cancer because that's what they've been told by their practitioners. And they've gone on to not get any further cancer treatment. And of course, not only is that going to mean that the tumour's there, but even if black salve was able to get rid of, say, skin cancer because it's on the surface, it's not going to deal with the metastatic elements of that cancer. So it could have spread to elsewhere in your body while people are using this ineffective treatment in the meantime. So it's dangerous on a number of fronts, really, not just for the initial gruesome effect it can have on your skin, but for the underlying fact that it doesn't deal with the fact that you have cancer. Yeah, it's really really nasty stuff.
It is, and thank you for giving our listeners a sort of an overview of it. I've certainly seen some of the horrible results of very unfortunate people who have been trying to, get rid of their skin cancer or what have you, and losing part of their face in some situations, and it's the stuff of nightmares, it really is, but people swear by it, and people get almost this religious fervour about it, but we find that about many alternative treatments.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. I mean, I did actually see one conference in the UK, a very small conference, which is promoting black salve and various other things like Miracle Mineral Supplement and things like that. And their advice to this one guy in the audience who said he'd had throat cancer and was still needing to go to hospital essentially for the follow-ups because, if you have cancer, there's a reasonable chance in the first couple of years that it might recur, and that's why they give you a kind of a survival rate past a certain number of years. And their advice to this guy who had throat cancer was if you're going back to the hospital after you had the cancer operations, that's only because the hospital want to keep you there so they can keep using you to make money.
Yeah.
And he said, instead, what I would recommend is that you gargle with black salve.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, the stuff that it does to the surface of people's skin is bad enough, but I can't imagine what it'd be like gargling with that stuff. So yeah, and the huge problem, I think, is that the practitioners believe it works. It's not like they're saying, take this stuff, we know it's going to kill you in the end, but we don't care because we're unscrupulous con men. They really think what they're selling and promoting will actually cure cancer, and that means they'll make these extremely dangerous, totally extreme claims because they think those claims are right. So yeah, they can lead people with the best of intentions. They can lead people into hugely dangerous situations and never realize what they're doing is going to put those people's lives potentially at risk.
This is the story we've heard again and again over many years with all sorts of therapies and alternative treatments and things like that. But the good news is, owing to the efforts of the Good Thinking Society, you've managed to get some action taken via or about eBay.
Yeah, we did. It's a fairly unusual or circuitous route that we achieved this, actually. But I happened to be sort of in a conversation about black salve and happened to Google it to say, oh, yeah, you can buy it on eBay. And when I spotted that it was there on eBay, it was actually being sold by someone in Merseyside, where I live. So I thought, oh, that's interesting. I didn't know I didn't know that there's someone out there selling black salve. And I spotted that not only was it being sold on eBay, but it had a special deal with a chain of high street stores for sort of click and collect. So rather than getting it delivered to your house, you can get it delivered to your high street store. And I thought, wow, this is adds an extra element to the story. If you can pick up this incredibly dangerous product, not just have it delivered to your house, but you can actually go into a high street store and pick it up. This is bringing in a national chain, Sainsbury's and Argos, who are two of the most kind of recognizable brands on the high street. They're now involved in this kind of story. And so I ordered some of this black salve and picked it up from my local Argos in Liverpool with a few photos of me doing that. And the fact that this involved some high street chains meant the news value of this story went up a lot more because the newspapers got to say the incredibly dangerous cancer so-called cure that you can pick up from the high street. And so we gave the story to the Times, and it actually ran in the Times, including a little box out on the front page. So it was kind of almost the front, it was on the actual front page of the Times for the day, one of the most kind of respected newspapers in the country. And as a result of the coverage we got in the Times, eBay removed all the listings for black salve, kind of under pressure from the MHRA, which is the regulator of medicines here in the UK. So we're monitoring the situation at the moment, but certainly there's no more listings for black salve from the UK. I think it's still one or two. I think there's one from New Zealand and one from America that you can find. But we're now using this story to help ensure eBay keeps black salve listings off eBay, so people can't be selling this stuff, which means ultimately it's much, much harder for people who've been convinced that this stuff's effective to buy this and potentially do serious damage themselves.
And for those people outside of the UK, Marsh, what sort of store is Argos?
Well, Argos, it's actually one of the most recognised brands in the UK, but it's not quite as prominent as it used to be. So Argos is a slightly curious beast that it's a catalogue store. So you go into the shop and there's catalogues there of all the goods that they sell, and you write down the number of the piece that you want to go and buy and give that to the people behind the counter, and then they go off and get it. So you can't actually see any of the products in the store. They're all sort of in a warehouse mysteriously out back. Which was great before things like Amazon and eBay came along and general online ordering, which I think undercut a lot of Argos's market. So I don't know if you've got an equivalent to that kind of thing in Australia or anywhere else, but that's Argos. So I think the reason that they've got this partnership with eBay is because a lot of people who are ordering stuff online, that's the kind of custom that Argos would have been using previously, looking for new ways of keeping themselves relevant.
Yeah, I don't think we have I don't think we have quite the equivalent here, but what we do have more and more now is click and collect, and I've even used that myself, so I know exactly what you mean. But once again, folks, there's a full report about this whole eBay and black salve story at goodthinkingsociety.org, and I recommend you go there. It's a very good, concise, interesting report with a link to the story, the coverage in the Times newspaper. Well, Marsh, people can hear about that and a lot more things, of course, at QED, one of the premier skeptical conventions anywhere in the world coming up. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, we've released our tickets now for QED, so those tickets are now on sale. I think it's the 7th year we've been doing QED, which feels astonishing to me that we've been going for quite so long, and it's been getting bigger and more established every year. So last year was the biggest one we've ever done, and we had I think we had 666 people there. We didn't do that on purpose. That's just how it turned out once you kind of included organisers and speakers and panellists and podcasts and all that kind of stuff, really. But yeah, we've announced the first 7 of our speakers. So David Gorski, I'm sure people will be very familiar with David Gorski from Science-Based Medicine. He's going to be speaking. And Simon Singh from the Good Thinking Society is going to be demonstrating an actual World War II Enigma machine how that code was broken. He's actually got a genuine machine from that was used to break the Enigma code, and he's going to be talking us through that. We've got Kavin Senapathy, who's a journalist in America who specializes in healthcare and alternative medicine, quackery kind of stories, and she's written for Forbes and Slate and people like that. And we've got lots of different people, really. And tickets they're on sale now. They're priced at £109 for the weekend, or £75 if you're a student, and it's taking place in Manchester on the 14th and 15th of October. It should be fun. The last QED was huge. In terms of we had the most people we've ever had, but we're also we were running so many different sort of tracks at once. So we had the main stage of speakers, we had a second room of panels, we had a third room of podcasts, and a fourth room of little closed workshops. And then we had a fifth room that was a cinema, and we had a sixth room that was Richard Wiseman put on a special room of optical illusions. And it was it was a different QED, and I think probably the most exciting QED we've had. And we're looking to do the same thing again. So we should have all those different rooms running at once, which is a lot of stuff to do, but it means that there's always something for everyone.
Fantastic. I mean, I was very, very lucky. I appeared at QED 2 years running. Through odd series of circumstances, I found myself in Manchester too. Well, the first one, actually, you very kindly flew me out, which I was very, very grateful for. But the next year I was in that neck of the woods, and I took part in QED once again. Both times were absolutely wonderful. I hear nothing but good reports since then, and I know that our very own reporter and president of Australian Skeptics, Aran Sagev, certainly has been to QED and enjoys it very much. You had Dr. Carl over there. It's a wonderful convention, and tickets are on sale now. What's that website, Marsh?
It's qedcon.org.
Just to remind everybody, qedcon.org. If you're in the UK or you're near the UK or you're thinking of going to the UK at that time of the year, please make this a priority. You won't regret it. It really is a fantastic convention. Well, Marsh, thank you once again for filling the Skeptic Zone audience in on the goings-on at the Good Thinking Society. Again, folks, I recommend you subscribe to their newsletter. It's a really good way to keep up with their investigations, and as you can hear, they really get things done. So, Marsh, all power to you.
Thanks a lot, Richard. Thanks for having me on the show.
Richard.
Oh, hi, Trish. Hi. Would you like a coffee?
Yeah, thanks. What are you working on?
I'm trying to come up with a new promo to play on the Skeptic Zone.
Who's it for?
The Good Thinking Society in the UK. You know, Michael Marshall, Simon Singh, Laura Thomas and that crowd.
Oh, yeah, I know them. Oh. They've been doing some great work investigating veterinary homeopathy.
Veterinary homeopathy? What, you sugar pills for cows?
I know, right? And also they're looking at some of the dodgy medical advice given by UK chiropractors.
Really? Okay, look, I'll mention all that in the promo. Now, their website is goodthinkingsociety.org.
And they've recently been reporting on the resurgence of faith healer Peter Popoff.
Peter Popoff. Great. Okay, look, thanks for that. It gives me something good to think about. And now, direct from the cafe at Australia's Science Channel, it's Brew Ha Ha with Casey Harrigan.
Britain has said, cheerio, see you tomorrow, coal-powered electricity, for the first time since the freaking Industrial Revolution. Not a day has gone by without firing up their coal stations since they invented them in the 1800s. But Friday, the 21st of April, Britain was able to rely on clean alternatives like natural gas, nuclear and renewables for 24 hours. It's the beginning of an end of an era. No more crowded smokestacks glimpsed through a fog of pollution as little urchin children run around with soot on their faces in the street. This was possible partly because spring has sprung in Britain, that time of year where power demands are at their lowest. It is kind of 2 steps forward, 1 step back, as they were back on coal the next day. But this milestone is part of a long-term trend, as the stretches of coal-free power get longer and longer. In fact, Britain aims to close all coal stations by 2025. That's so soon, guys. So we salute the motherland for showing Australia that a country with 7.5 million fewer square kilometres and 37 million more people can make a clean break from dirty coal.
For more Brew Ha Ha and Australian science, head for www.australiascience.tv. Save the date. SciCon is returning to Las Vegas for 2017. Today, you turned on your computer or your phone and Facebook told you that vaccines are an evil government plot. Twitter told you the sun is revolving around a flat Earth. And the House Science Committee told you that climate change is nothing to worry about. Meanwhile, up is down, true is false, Oceania has always been at war with East Asia, and dogs and cats may in fact be living together. Enough already. It's time, once again, for the forces of reason and science to come together. Time for critical thinkers to connect, learn from each other, and sharpen their skills. Time for the leading lights of skepticism to share their wisdom and rally the troops. It's time for SciCon 2017 back in Las Vegas. October the 26th to the 29th, join luminaries such as James the Amazing Randi, Richard Dawkins, Eugenie Scott, The Skeptic's Guide to the Universe, Susan Gerbic, Harriet Hall, Richard Wiseman, Carrie Poppy, Joe Nickel, and many, many more. The Master of Ceremonies is none other than George Harab. For the biggest Skeptics event of the year, returning triumphantly to the Excalibur Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas, the City of Illusions, SciCon 2017 will be packed with fascinating talks and presentations, dazzling entertainment, and fun social events with fellow skeptics. This October, get away from fake news and conspiracy theories filling up your news feeds at SciCon 2017. Your alternative to alternative facts. For more information, visit www.csiconference.org. Now, folks, just a little while ago, I was very lucky enough to receive a book for review from our friends at Allen and Unwin, and they produce many fine science books. And this one's pretty unusual. I didn't know what to think about it when I opened up the package and I saw the title of the book. It's called And Then You're Dead, a scientific exploration of the world's most interesting ways to die, by Cody Cassidy and Paul Doherty. And I thought, what sort of a book is this? But it didn't take me long to flip through and start reading it to discover that it does tackle a very strange subject, but it does it so well in good scientific terms. And I'm lucky enough to have with me from the Bay Area one of the authors of the book, Dr. Paul Doherty. Hello.
Hello, and thank you for having me on.
My pleasure, especially after reading this fascinatingly strange, macabre in a sort of a way book about all the interesting ways to die. Many topics covered, and I will say the book is, I quite like the fact that the book is in tiny chapters of 4 or 5 pages each. Let's get to the beginning. What on earth motivated you and your co-author to write such a book?
Well, Cody came up with the idea for the book. He had been reading Sebastian Jung's book, The Perfect Storm, and he noted in there this incredibly detailed description of how you die by drowning. And he thought, that was really interesting. I wonder what the science is behind other ways to die. And so he called me up as his scientist friend and said, hey, do you think we could get together and come up with ideas and really look at the science behind the world's most interesting ways to die?
And that's true, because I would have thought, just looking at the title, you might be discussing some ways some people have died and moving on. But no, you actually go into the science. And we'll just pick a couple of the topics at random, some of the ones that I particularly loved to read about. There's a whole chapter there. When I say a chapter, it's a mini chapter. It's a section of the book about time travel. And I thought, what? How does that work? But of course, what you do is you suppose we jumped into a time machine and landed some billions of years ago, then some millions of years ago. And the science behind that, not the time travel, we don't know how that works, but what you would expect when you arrived is quite interesting.
Yeah, so, we don't realize how nice a place the Earth is right now. And if you go back a couple billion years, or actually, let's go back to the more closer to the beginning, 4 billion years. The Earth has an atmosphere, but it doesn't have any oxygen in it. And then a couple billion years ago, if you go then, it turns out one of the greatest pollution events in the history of the world happens. Now, get this. Can you imagine an organism creating a gas and injecting the gas into the atmosphere that kills every other organism on Earth? Well, blue-green algae did that. They actually created this waste product called oxygen and put it into the atmosphere. And most of the organisms, in fact, all the other organisms, were anaerobic. Oxygen killed them. So this organism produced a waste gas that then killed almost everything else. Now, of course, we if we went back to that time period, would have some oxygen to breathe. The only thing there was to eat was blue-green algae, so it probably gets a little bit boring.
Yeah.
And no land plants. The land is just barren. So not an interesting time, but at least you could breathe. And then we said, well, how about 150 million years ago? Well, there were dinosaurs around, and that'd be so cool, except you're way down from the top of the food chain. I mean, you are lunch, is what we call you at that time. But finally, sometime after the dinosaurs get eliminated by the impact, the meteorite impact, then it's probably there's air, there's food. We're doing pretty well. And if you jump 1 billion years into the future, the sun has swollen up and gotten hotter, and it has evaporated all the oceans on Earth. So then, even though there might still be oxygen around, there's no water. So you're in deep trouble. So we live in this little 1 billion year plus interval in which the Earth is habitable. So we're kind of lucky.
Indeed we are. And it didn't quite occur to me, because the romance of time travel is something like you see in Doctor Who or the movies, where people go back to an earlier period in human history or not too far either way. But you're right, for most of the existence of the Earth, you'd have a lot of trouble if you stepped out of the time machine. You betcha. In fact, the universe is uniformly deadly to humans. I mean, you can't hardly even conceive of a place you could go anywhere in space and time. I'll not only let you search through all of space, I'll let you search through all of time. The probability of finding a place where you can survive for more than 4 minutes is like really unlikely. Yeah, I'm glad we're here. Actually, I'm glad we're here. Look, other topics in the book. What if you skydive from outer space? What if you jumped into a black hole? What would happen to your body then? What if you just stayed in bed? Bizarre things like what if you were swallowed by a whale? There's quite a lot of content in the book. One of my other favorites was you theorized, well, what would happen if you traveled to Jupiter, the planet Jupiter? And that would be great. The view would be amazing. But that is absolutely one of the most dangerous things you could possibly do. Yeah, in fact, we dropped an exploration satellite, the Galileo probe, into Jupiter. So we have some pretty good data about what happens. So you drop into Jupiter, and coming in, and the deceleration, because the atmosphere gets thick really fast. So first of all, the deceleration might kill you. So you have to very carefully enter Jupiter to keep the acceleration level down. And then let's say you try to breathe the air. There's just no oxygen. The atmosphere is hydrogen and helium. And I guess the only good part about that is that when you let out your last scream, it'll be a nice high pitch, like people breathing the helium. Kind of nice. But that scream's going to last a while. As you fall down in Jupiter, the air gets thicker and thicker under the gravity on Jupiter. And eventually the air is as thick as the air is on the Earth. And then it gets as thick, as dense as water. Wow. So you just sort of float there a bit. And but if you were to plunge down even deeper into Jupiter, the pressure begins to go up and just sort of crushes you. And if you go down as far as the Galileo probe went down, you would be taken apart into your component atoms by the temperature. But the cool part is, the best part of all, is that the hydrogen atoms in your body would join the hydrogen atoms deep in Jupiter, which we believe are liquid metal hydrogen. Wow. And so you would join the liquid metal hydrogen of Jupiter, and so you might imagine yourself as like the villain in Terminator 2, the metal guy made of metal, right? You'd be made of metal like that. That would be a very, very interesting way to die indeed. Now, I won't go through too many more of the topics because I don't want to spoil it for everybody who's going to be reading this book, because it is fascinating. And I keep getting back to this, the fact that it's in bite-sized chunks. I mean, if you're on the commuting on the bus or the train or whatever, you can read a couple of chapters on your way to work. You're not committed to continuing on, and then you can move on to the next chapter. What surprised you when you were doing all the research for all these interesting ways to die?
What really shocked me was that, as a physicist, is that magnetism can kill you. And it turns out that no magnet on Earth can hurt you. I mean, you can go into a magnetic field in an MRI machine, which is, we measure it, call it 2 Tesla. And the Earth's magnetic field that we live in all the time is only 50 microtesla.
Wow.
So it's a really strong magnetic field. It does nothing. You know, people that have gone into MRIs and come out again, no change. Okay? There's a star out there in space called a magnetar.
Ooh.
And it's a neutron star, and its magnetic field is 100 billion times stronger than an MRI. So that's such a strong magnetic field that your atoms are actually made, every electron in your body is a magnet.
Yeah.
And with that strong a magnetic field, it takes over the motions of the electrons in the atoms, and it stretches your atoms into cigar shapes, and then stretches them into lines, and then breaks every bond between the atoms in your body, so you become a gas.
Wow.
And then it doesn't stop there. It rips the electrons out of all the atoms in your body, so you become a human plasma. You're a plasma shaped like a human. So I thought, if I'm going to pick any way in the book to die, I'm going to go visit a magnetar. Yeah.
Well, and there are a lot of choices. There are a lot of choices. What if you vacationed on Venus? If you lived through a nuclear winter, I guess that'd be pretty tough. What if you were caught in a human stampede? The list goes on and on and on. Folks, the book is called And Then You're Dead, a scientific exploration of the world's most interesting ways to die. It's just been released this month by Dr. Paul Doherty and Cody Cassidy, and I'll add a link to that book in the show notes from the good people of Alan and Unwin. Well, Paul, thank you very much for your time. I really am still enjoying this book. I haven't decided which interesting way I would like to die. Probably I'll decide when I'm 92.
A good choice, and thanks for importing me to Australia and the Skeptic Zone.
You told me that aliens really exist. You met them and swooned.
Sziasztok!
Всем привет!
Hejsan allihop! Guys, I just had the most amazing experience.
What experience, Andras?
Andras, have you been to the pub? I told you not to hang out with Marsh. You know he was blessed by Peter Popov.
No, Yelena, I'm not talking about psychics. It was a real ESP experience.
You have been to the pub. Either that or you've been smoking something.
No, Pontus. The ESP is the European Skeptics podcast. It's the most amazing thing. You get to know so much about skeptics and their activities across Europe. You know, events, hot topics, and interviews with lots of interesting people.
Oh, wow, cool. By the way, Pontus, you just committed the false dichotomy fallacy.
I guess that means I'm really wrong.
Yep. And you can even learn about those fallacies on the show and hear about people spreading silly ideas. You should really check it out. It's the ESP, the European Skeptics podcast. It's on every week.
All right, so where can I get this ESP experience? It sounds good.
You can go online at theesp.eu, follow it on Twitter at espodcast_EU, or like the podcast on Facebook. Oh, and you can also contact the show by sending them an email to info@theesp.eu. And if you want to subscribe, do a quick search for the European Skeptic podcast on SoundCloud, iTunes, or Stitcher.
Crazy. I don't know how you can believe.
Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone. Now, fans of Maynard, if you go to maynard.com.au, and of course you know about that site from his podcasts and Bunga Bunga and Planet Maynard and all that sort of thing, but you'll find links there to some recent video work Maynard's been doing, and to let you know that Maynard is the perfect frontman for videos. If you need somebody to be at your function, your location, your media event, to interview the stars, to interview the people, whoever you wish, Maynard is your man. He specializes in red carpet interviews or interviews in general, and he's great doing audio reports, as you know, listening to the Skeptic Zone, or video reports. He's the man for you. More information, if you're interested in using Maynard, if you live in the Sydney area, maynard.com.au. Check out his work and drop him a line if you'd like to engage his services. He's one of the best, and he's been one of the best since the 1980s, and we are very lucky indeed to have Maynard a part of the Skeptic Zone now for many years. Coming up on next week's show, I'm going to do a call out to my reporters. Reporters, hello? Hello, reporters, are you there? I hope to have an interview or a segment or a report or something from one of my wonderful reporters who do such a great job, all of them, and we miss them. We miss them when they're not part of the show. So hopefully next week we'll have a report from a reporter. That would be nice. But for this week at least, this is Richard Saunders signing off from a very warm, delightful Sydney, Australia. You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for contacts, an archive of all episodes since 2008, and our online store. Please support the Skeptic Zone by following us on Twitter @Skeptic Zone, liking us on Facebook, and leaving a review on iTunes. You can also show your support by subscribing via PayPal for as little as 99 cents a week. The Skeptic Zone is an independent production. The views and opinions expressed on the Skeptic Zone are not necessarily those of Australian Skeptics Inc. or any other skeptical organisation. To the Good Thinking newsletter, and it comes into my inbox regularly. And I just have to pause. Marsh, there's a plane coming.
Yeah, that's no problem.
It's my turn to be on the flight path. And I can tell you, because I've got my flight radar tracking. Wow, that's flying.
Okay, so you keep that open to track it as the planes come over so you don't get surprised by them.
Well, I got surprised by this one because I was looking at your website. That's a Sydney to Adelaide flight right now, going over my house. Luckily, it's a jet, so it goes over quickly.